Welcome to Soccer Morning on NASN. Here's your host, Jason Davis.
Happy Monday, everybody. Jason Davis here with you on Soccer Morning. Brand new week. MLS is underway. Soccer everywhere. Partaking of it all is what we do here at Soccer Morning. Again, happy Monday. I hope your Monday is good. Mine is a little rough. I am playing hurt today. I was waylaid by a stomach bug last night. It was not fun. You may have seen my tweet if you follow me on Twitter, DavisJSN. Go do that right now. I said basically, when you have a stomach bug, when you are a virus, a stomach virus, and you know what that means, you know what that entails. I don't have to describe it. No gory details here. When you have one of those, you are aware that there is greater suffering in the world, but you just can't remember what it is because it's just a terrible experience. So I am recovering. I seem to be okay. If anything comes out of any orifices, we will stop the show immediately and call the needed authorities. But we're good right now. We've got plenty to talk about. MLS, FA Cup, England, Chelsea doing Chelsea things, Samuel Eto'o doing hilarious celebrations. I think MLS is the headline for most of us here in the States. I'm sure you partook of some MLS, whether you went out to I'd love to hear from people this morning. I know, look, you're at work, you're getting into it, you got a lot of work, a lot of things piled up on your desk, whatever it is. But I'd love to hear from people who went out to the stadiums on Saturday or Sunday and watched MLS. It's exciting. The 19th season of Major League Soccer. We've got 19 teams. We've got new stars to watch. We haven't yet seen Michael Bradley, Jermaine Defoe. They're coming. CFC will get underway shortly. Some interesting results from this weekend. Lots of goals. If you like goals, this was your weekend. And who doesn't like goals? At least quality goals. Vancouver dropped 4 on New York. Dallas 3, Montreal 2. Houston scored 4 on New England. Chivas USA and Chicago played to a 3-2 scoreline. Good job, Chivas USA, by the way. Nobody there to see it, but put in a good effort. That second half, if you watch the first half of Chivas USA and Chicago Fire, I'm sorry. You'll never get those 45 minutes back. But if you watch the second half, you were entertained. That was a heck of a game in the second half. First MLS goal for Benji Hoya, a minute after he came on. Thomas McNamara taking the league by storm with his incredibly awesome haircut, which no normal human being can pull off. Only a soccer player can pull that off. Only a soccer player and, that 20-year-old guy, that doesn't care. And has been in like 4 bands already. And keeps talking about, how he's going to be a rock star. Yeah. We have our phone lines open as always. 347-756-6276. You have MLS observations. Get them in. We're going to talk to Daryl Lovell from down in Houston about the Dynamo's resounding win over New England. Again, 4-0. Will Bruin coming out of the blocks hard. Will Bruin with a couple of nice goals and a great assist as well. This is what you need to know about the Houston Dynamo in 2014. If Will Bruin is going to play like that all year, and yes, it's a high standard, maybe he doesn't score twice every night out, but if he plays like that all season, through most of the season, the Dynamo are going to be very good. The Dynamo are going to be very good in 2014. I don't know that I'm jumping to any conclusions here if I'm going out on any limbs by saying the Houston Dynamo will be competitive, will be good in 2014. But you look at that Eastern Conference. You look at what's coming up in the Eastern Conference and the teams that have gotten better. Sporting Kansas City is the defending champion. Have they gotten better? I don't know. They mostly stood pat with their roster, but they're still very, very good. Yeah, they lost to Seattle. Heartbreaking loss last minute. Goal by Chad Barrett. The first MLS goal of the season was scored by Chad Barrett. I've essentially made a blogging career off of Chad Barrett jokes. Chad Barrett scores the opening goal for the Seattle Sounders. First goal of the MLS season. That's a tough one to swallow, Sporting. It's a tough one to swallow. He scored twice last year. He scored once the year before that. So I guess, quota met for Chad Barrett in 2014. See how that goes. But you look at this. Sporting Kansas City, they are who they are. The New York Red Bulls mostly stood pat as well. They added a couple pieces. Armando is in the mix. They went to Vancouver and got demolished. We'll talk about that, certainly. Duffy's on the line. What's up, Duffy?
Hey, MLS is back. Great day at the stadium. It rained the entire time I was in Seattle, but it was awesome.
Yeah, by the way,
a traditional Seattle-Kansas City game. Seattle steals it right at the end.
it's a tradition now when Seattle beats Sporting in the last minute or added time.
It's the fifth time. It's the fifth time we've done that.
Yeah, and
we've scored after like the 88th minute.
And I think in league play, is that like 8 wins against Sporting for the Sounders, something like that?
I think we won. That is now. I think it was 7 before. I think we only lost in the league the very first time we played them in 2009.
Yeah, and of course the U.S. Open Cup final is a memory that you'll not want to.
Yeah, we also scored late in that one to tie it.
Right,
but we lost in the penalties. So.
Yeah. Well, okay. Let me ask you this, Duffy. And you go out to the stadium, and it's a different experience, and you are partaking of everything that's happening there. And I imagine that the quality of play is one of your lesser concerns. But as a guy watching that game on television, in the rain on the turf, and I'm gonna anger some of my Seattle friends because I've got some, believe it or not. The turf ruins the game for me, Duffy. It just does. It ruins the game. Those are two teams who know how to pass the ball around a little bit, who know how to play soccer, and they can't do it because the ball never settles. It just never settles. You try to make a 5-yard pass, the ball skips up, it goes over a foot. Next thing you know, we got a 50-50 on the other side of it. That doesn't make for good soccer.
Maybe on TV at the stadium, like say, I don't notice as much. I mean, I've been there every game since 2009, so I never noticed as much. I mean, the whole thing for me, when I watch the game there, I always see things like, oh, what the heck, that ref played a crappy call. And I go home and watch it again, say, oh, okay, maybe that was right. So, it's a different vantage point at the stadium for sure. So, all
right, well, let me ask you this. As a guy who's been at that stadium for every game since 2009, since the Sounders entered the league, do you have a sense that if there was, look, this is not the Sounders' fault. I understand that a lot went into the decision to put turf down at CenturyLink, and obviously you have the Seahawks there, and look, Super Bowl champions, everything's great in Seattle football-wise. Do you ever get the sense, and again, it's not like, I don't know, it's not like you should be angry about it, but do you ever get the sense that if CenturyLink did have grass, the Sounders would be a better soccer team?
Yeah. Maybe, but you also remember it'd probably be a mud bog for a big stretch. Like now, I mean, it rained in March, especially. I remember the first Cascadia Derby. We had our month allotment of rain in that one day, and it was a deluge.
Okay.
It was terrible. So, I mean, that's the thing you got to deal with. And the way that stadium is laid, it doesn't get a lot of sun. Apparently, according to the experts, I don't know. I don't follow any of that kind of stuff, but. They say it wouldn't grow very well, but I don't know. I mean, they have grass across the street at Safeco, so I suppose if there's a will, there's a way. So, I mean, they grow grass in England, for crying out loud.
That's what I was going to get to. I mean, it rains, and I mean, specifically this season has been, this 2014 has been crazy with the rain in England, but seems like if they can grow it in England and keep it not from being a mud bog when it's pouring constantly there, you might be able to do something in Seattle. And again, I'm going to anger some Seattle people. Maybe there are some reasons that it just can't happen, although Grant Wall did tweet out this weekend that he thinks, or he's heard that the Timbers will be the first Pacific Northwest team to put in grass, and that's coming probably soon. I think Merritt Paulson is coming around to the realization that if he wants to play soccer the way he wants his team to play soccer, then they're going to need to play grass because it just the ball does not do what you want it to do on the turf, whether you're trying to get it done or not. Thanks for the call, Duffy. I appreciate it, man.
All right, thank you.
Enjoy your MLS season.
Oh, I will.
All right, there you go. Duffy calling in with his MLS thoughts. 347-756-6276 if you want to talk MLS. You want to talk about surprises, best performers on the weekend. Again, I mentioned Will Bruin. He's the guy with 2 goals. He's the guy with the great assist. He stands out, but there's a host of good performances across the league in week 1. If you're talking about teams, let's look at the Columbus Crew who went to RFK, and yes, okay, beating DC United is not really that tough of an ask these days, but this is a new reformed DC United team. They did not play well There's no sense that that DC United has gotten markedly better based on that performance. You look at them on paper and you go, oh, they should be better. Well, we'll see how that plays out. And we'll see how long, if this continues, Ben Olsen can hold on to his job. I mean, it's such a difficult situation when you sign up a guy like Ben Olsen to be your head coach. A club legend, a guy who everybody at DC United loves for what he did on the field for that club. And the tifos and everything has happened, and everything has happened for DC United with Ben Olsen on the field, and then you transition him into a head coaching role, it goes bad. Now you got to fire a legend. And how does that make everybody around the club feel? 419, you're on the air.
Hey, what's up, Jason? This is Nick from Toledo.
What's up, Nick?
I wanted to chime in on the whole turf thing. You're right. Watching Seattle and Kansas City was kind of awful. But when you watched the Vancouver-New York Red Bulls game, that was played on turf, but played indoors without the weather elements.
Yeah.
And I thought that actually looked pretty good. I thought Vancouver was able to pass the ball quite nicely, actually.
Okay, fair enough.
And how about the Revs defense? You might want to shore that up.
Well, look, I mean, Andrew Farrell didn't play in that game. I don't know. I mean, look, he's a fullback. I don't know how much of a difference that should make. And clearly, New England's got some issues that they need to sort out in coming out of this loss against the Dynamo. Again, Darrell Level, who covers the Dynamo for MLSsoccer.com, will join us at 10:30. We'll talk through that big win for Houston at home. I mean, look, remember, this is at home. We don't quite know how New England is going to flesh out. And Teal Bunbury is new to that team. We'll have to work him in now that Juan Agudelo is gone. Looking at their lineup here, I mean, you have a defending defender of the year in Jose Gonçalves. You got AJ Soares, who's a quality young player. Alston and Tierney, veteran players who should be comfortable playing against, even with Sarkodie and Ash pushing forward the way that they do in that Houston setup. They should be able to handle this. It was a bad day. It was a bad day. Maybe you just kind of sweep it aside, because New England is one of those teams that people are tapping for big things this year. If they build on 2013, if they make strides this season, then they could be an MLS Cup contender. You don't see it yet because they got stomped down in Houston, but there's certainly talent in that team. There's certainly the ability to be effective. No Lee Nguyen in this game as well. So I don't know. I mean, let's not look at week one results and draw out larger conclusions. Lots of things go into week one that aren't going to be there down the line. We're not going to know who the best team in the league is for quite some time until we start to see those results pile up. Until we start to see teams really put together good result after good result. Houston Dynamo, 4-0. Columbus Crew, 3-0. Those are your big winners out in the East. Philadelphia went to Portland and got a draw. Philadelphia is going to be better. They certainly were better. I think that the surprising thing about that game, and Portland took a late equalizer to get them a point out of that game. 90th +4 for Gaston Fernandez. Jack McInerney put Philadelphia up in the 64th minute. They nearly held on for 3 points. 774, you're on the air.
Hey, Jason, Alex calling from Massachusetts. How are you?
What's up, Alex? Are you a Revs fan?
I am. At the end of the day, it's just one match. And I think, for all teams this weekend, I don't think you can take too much away. There's a lot of things that'll change throughout the course of the season. I mean, last year, Montreal and Colorado were tops in their respective conferences for a while. So I think for all fans, good or bad, I think everybody needs to just, sit tight. For the Reds, they made a couple of mistakes in the back line. And Houston just, when they got their chances, they put the ball in the back of the net. The Reds didn't.
Again, Will Bruin, that first Will Bruin goal was pretty special. I mean, it took a great finish to put that in the net. Do you think that you say a couple of mistakes, okay, but those pile up. You lose 2-0. That's one thing. You lose 4-0. You drop. You give up 4 goals. Does that indicate something needs? I mean, again, it's one game. I guess you can't really decide to change anything yet.
Yeah. as you know, once you go down 2-0, 3-0 that early, it changes the whole dynamic of the game.
Yeah.
I mean, and even still with Houston, dropping back, the Revs had chances. I mean, Kellen Rowe hit the post, Diego Fagundes hit the post, Jerry Benston, missed he had a chance he was a couple of feet within the goal. He missed the goal. Same thing with Kellen Rowe. He had a volley, from 6 yards out. So they had their opportunities. I don't think, like I said, you can't take too much from one match. And it was on the road. And, usually the Revs do well in Houston, but it's a tough place to play. So.
Absolutely. Those teams have a lot of history. Are you high on this team right now? Are you one of those people who thinks they can actually make a run, or is it a little bit too early?
I would say it might be a little too early. But there's no reason why they can't make the playoffs.
Sure.
But it's at this point they're still fairly young, and obviously I'm optimistic. But like I said, things can change, and it's all about just making the playoffs. You make the playoffs, and then it's a tournament.
There you go.
And anything can happen.
Yeah, a long way to go till then. I mean, end of October is a long way off. Plenty of games between now and then. One game, one loss down in Houston. Again, a difficult place to go play. Not that it's hot there yet, but Houston's going to be better than I think most people thought, Alex.
Yeah, they always do well. They have a great coach, obviously, and they have talented players. There's no doubt about it. I mean, it's they didn't make a ton of moves in the off season, but they still have a solid team. They know how to win, and when it comes down to crunch time, they get the job done. So, I think for people to discount Houston, I think is the wrong thing to do.
Sure.
There's a history there. So.
Never bet against Dom Kinnear. Alex up in Mass. Thanks for the call, man. I appreciate it.
All right. Thanks, man. Take care.
There you go. 347-756-6276. You have thoughts on your team or any team around MLS today. Daryl Level coming up in a couple of minutes to talk about Houston again. I mean, we'll talk about the ceiling of this team. We'll talk about some of the development within this lineup. The guys that you're really going to point to and say if they play well, if they raise their level, then Houston can continue. No, look, they're not going to beat everybody 4-0. There's, again, a long way to go. In the end, you might expect Houston to finish third or fourth in the East. But then, as I said, you look at the Eastern Conference, you look at what teams have done to try to get better. Even if you don't believe in DC United, you probably have to believe in the Philadelphia Union. You probably have to believe in Toronto FC at least being better, at least making it tougher for those teams that are trying to get to the playoffs this season. This is the thing you notice most as you go down these teams in the Eastern Conference. There are no easy outs. There are going to be fewer easy games across the conference in 2014 than there was last year. Houston, Columbus, Philadelphia, Toronto, Chicago, Montreal. Maybe Montreal's taking a step back. They went down to Dallas and nearly got a point out of FC Dallas. We'll see how good FC Dallas is, by the way. Sporting, New York, DC United, and New England. Where DC United, the patsy in that group? Sure. As of right now, no reason to think that they're not. But other than that, again, looking at these teams, where's the patsy? 905, producer Vince, what's up, man?
Oh, hey, Jason, how's it going?
It's going, man. It's first week of MLS. Tell me how excited you are.
I enjoyed this opening weekend more than last year's. Definitely. I mean, for every game being the first of the season, there was a lot of really good quality soccer played. Obviously, the marquee matchup, depending on how you look at it, didn't live up to the hype for a number of reasons.
Yeah.
But overall, man, I found myself enjoying that Chivas Chicago game yesterday. That was actually pretty fun, especially in the second half.
Yeah, no. If you watch the first half, that was a waste of time. But if you watch that second half, you get 5 goals in that second half, and a lot of them were quality goals, excellent, top-notch goals in that game. And you had youth. I think that one of the themes we're going to see in 2014, Vince, is young players stepping up, making an impact. I mean, look, you bring in Michael Bradley, you pay him a lot of money. You bring in Jermaine Defoe, you pay him a lot of money. We're going to be watching Clint Dempsey as he tries to get his feet under him in Seattle. But really, the theme of the year, not just the new players. I mean, McNamara and his hair and Benji Hoya scoring a goal for Chicago, But those players, those young players we've been excited for that have shown something already, Diego Fagundes, yes, they lost, they got crushed, but, we're all going to be watching Diego Fagundes this year. Jack McInerney gets a chance to sort of come back around to scoring goals, did so on his first in his first game, so that's a good sign. Plenty of guys like that.
Yeah, this is way too early to jump the gun, but, I would love for MLS, a little bit in the future before, Don Garber makes MLS one of the greatest leagues in the world, for to kind of become a bit like the Eredivisie and just feature a lot of really talented young players. I mean, Benji Hoya, as soon as he came on, he got a goal, and I was really happy because I'm a big fan of him. But Jason, I have a question for you. I know San Jose didn't play this week. If they start off rolling and Wando, it finds his form, and DC struggles, do you think Wando takes over EJ on the U.S. depth chart?
No, and that's because of skill set mostly. I don't think it's just about goal scoring for him. Klinsmann's got slots he needs to fill out in terms of abilities, and while if you look at this is how I talk about this, Vince. When people are talking about Josie Altidore and him potentially losing his spot, I agree it's possible, and clearly you don't want to play a guy who has no confidence, isn't scoring at all from that position. But Josie Altidore brings a target forward ability to the table that doesn't exist through the rest of the pool. And if you're going to try to get that in a backup, you go, okay, well, who's the closest to Josie Altidore in that job? Maybe Terrence Boyd, then EJ, and that's why. And EJ can also play. You can also push him wide if you need to. He's also a threat in the air. I don't think that Wondolowski is quite the same dynamic player that Eddie Johnson is. He may be a better goal scorer naturally, but I think that Klinsmann would think of it in a different way than most of us do.
Well, I suppose so. I mean, EJ does have those unique qualities. Jason, I'll just leave you with, you know what? Never mind. I forgot what I wanted to what I wanted to say. Wow. Okay.
All right. Call me.
Jason, keep doing what you're doing. A great show, man. Take care.
Vince, call me back later if you remember. I'll give you a pass.
All right.
Thanks a lot. Bye. JP on Twitter. As a Galaxy fan, I have to say that Keenan and Landon Donovan for worst of the weekend for missed chances. LA certainly had their chances and missed a lot of them. And if you watched any of that LA RSL game, and Vince talked about the marquee matchup. The marquee matchup, and because it led the line, was Seattle hosting Sporting Kansas City. You had one of the West's best, highest spending teams against the defending champion in front of 40,000 people. The other marquee game was late Saturday night when LA hosted RSL, two teams that are always going to be top of the Western Conference until we find out otherwise. And LA, I won't say dominated that game, but certainly had most of that game on their side, had their chances, took shot after shot, and just wasn't able to put the ball in the back of the net. And you watch LA. This is the thing you take away from that. And this is why we can't just jump to conclusions based on score lines. Maybe 4-0, we can sort of say, well, that's a really bad day for New England. That's a really good day for Houston. Dallas scoring 3. Okay. Are they going to do that all year? I don't know. Columbus 3 on DC United. Are they going to do that all year? I don't know. But you watch LA. Yeah, they lost that game 1-0. They gave up the Plata goal, but they look dangerous. And if their tactics work the way it seems they want them to, with a target, with a forward up top in Samuel or Rob Friend or whoever takes that spot, then they can be extremely dangerous. It's one of the common themes you're seeing bouncing around Twitter and the internet in the aftermath of that game. Go find people talking about Landon Donovan from midfield, Robbie Keane having space to work behind that forward, not having to be the guy up there and getting that extra bit of space that allows him to play essentially a number 10 and when he wants to a number 9 type of role. All right. 347-756-6276 is your phone number. It just wasn't MLS this weekend. Let's take a quick break. Let me check on something. We got Daryl Level coming up in just a couple minutes, but let me take a quick break. When I come back, we'll touch on the rest of Europe, the rest of soccer around the world. It's Soccer Morning, North American Soccer Network, NASN.TV. All right, everybody. Soccer Morning, North American Soccer Network. Unfortunately, I'm going to have to treat this as a truncated episode of the show. That aforementioned stomach bug, which waylaid me last night, has ravaged my household, and I have to go take care of some people. That's what you do when you're a dad and a husband. So I apologize to Daryl Lovell. I apologize to all of you. Looking forward to the rest of the show. We will be back tomorrow, I promise. Again, sorry about this. This is not something I planned on. We thought we might be able to get through the whole show today. Unfortunately, I've got to cancel or to cut this one off. We will be back tomorrow. That's all I can say. My sincere apologies for the way this has gone today. Just one of those things. What can you do? All right. Soccer Morning tomorrow. Come back. Tuesday. We'll talk more MLS. We'll talk FA Cup, Chelsea, Samuel Eto'o, all that stuff. Bye, guys.